You've just expressed something. Maybe it's frustration, maybe it's hurt, maybe you asked for something that you needed, and her response lands like a slap. God, such a typical man. This is why women live longer. We don't have fragile little egos. Or men are all the same, useless. And something in you folds because this is not just an insult, it's a category. You're not wrong because of what you said, you're wrong because of what you are. Your gender has just been used to dismiss you entirely. Or maybe it comes from a different angle. What kind of man can't even handle this? Or I need a partner, not another child. Or even real men don't need reassurance. Now you're not man enough. You've failed some invisible test of masculinity and you find yourself scrambling to prove something, though you're not sure what, or to whom, or why the goalposts keep shifting. This is masculinity mockery, and in the context of coercive control, it serves a specific purpose. This is not just cruelty. This is not just someone being unkind. This is behavior modification through shame. Your abuser has identified the box you were taught to stay inside, the act like a man box that's been instilled since your childhood. They know the rules, they know what happens when you step outside them, and they use that knowledge to control you, to keep you silent, to keep you serving their needs, to keep you questioning your own value and worth. Every time you express a need, you're too emotional. Every time you push back, you're a fragile man. Every time you fall short of an impossible standard, you're not man enough. The message is consistent. Who you are as a man is the problem. And until you fix that, until you become something other than yourself, you don't deserve dignity, respect, or love. That's not feedback. That's control. Today, we're starting a three-part series on masculinity mockery, the use of shame, ridicule, and gendered attacks to modify your behavior and erode your sense of self. This is not about insults. This is about coercive control. How your abuser uses your masculine identity as a lever to keep you compliant, silent, and small. In this first part, we'll look at how your identity as a man gets attacked. We'll cover three distinct tactics: misandry disguised as truth, where cultural narratives of female superiority get weaponized against you. We'll cover masculine identity attacks, where your perspective is dismissed because you're a man, and the not man enough tactic, where you're trapped in an endless cycle of proving yourself against a standard that keeps shifting. We'll explore why these tactics work, what your abuser gains from using them, and how they exploit conditioning that started long before you met your abuser. We'll also cover practical tools for protecting yourself when you're still within this dynamic. For those of you who are new here, this is Stand Again, a lived experience platform for male victims of family violence. Abuse is not limited to one gender, and this channel focuses on the male perspective because it is so often dismissed or misunderstood. For those of you who have been here a while, you will have noticed that my video content has slowed down. I want to be honest with you, I've had to pick up additional work to keep Stand Again running, which means less time on videos. If this channel has helped you and you're able to support the work, there's now a way you can donate. The link is in the description. Every contribution helps me spend less time on paid work and more time on this. If you can't donate, that's no problem. Liking, subscribing, and adding the words Stand Again into the comment helps. Those two words in the comments don't just help the algorithm, they also help other men who see it and recognize that their voice can be heard. Let's get on to the definition of masculine mockery. Masculinity mockery is the use of shame, ridicule, and gendered attacks to control your behavior. It targets your identity as a man, your emotions, your needs, your role, your worth, and uses cultural expectations of masculinity as a weapon. This is coercive control. The goal is to modify how you behave, to keep you silent when you want to speak, to keep you serving when you're depleted, to keep you striving when you need to rest, and to keep you questioning yourself when you should be questioning them. Your abuser inherited the shame they use against you. We all did. From childhood, men are taught to stay inside what researchers call the act like a man box. Picture an invisible container with rigid walls. Inside the box is everything permitted for a man to be: tough, stoic, in control, self sufficient. Outside the box is everything forbidden to men, like vulnerability, emotion, needs, and softness. The rules are enforced early. Don't cry, don't complain, don't need anything. Do not show weakness. And shame is the enforcement mechanism. Step outside the box, and shame is the consequence. Show vulnerability, you get mocked. Express sadness, get dismissed. Ask for help, get ridiculed. The box is policed constantly by peers, by parents, and by culture itself. And the policing doesn't stop when you become an adult, it just gets more sophisticated. Your abuser knows this box. They know the walls. They know what happens when you step outside them, and they use that knowledge strategically. When they mock your emotions, they're activating shame you learned to feel at 7 years old when you cried on the playground and got laughed at. When they call you weak, they're triggering memories of being told to man up by people who were supposed to protect you. When they compare you to a real man, they're exploiting an impossible standard that was installed before you had any say in the matter. They learned where these triggers are. Here's what makes abuse different: your abuser does not just exploit the existing box, they build their own walls. They add rules that serve their needs. The cultural box says a man should provide. Your abuser says if you can't provide luxury holidays, then you are not a real man. The cultural box says you should be strong. Your abuser says if you can't read their mind and anticipate their needs, then you are weak. The cultural box says a man should be in control. Your abuser says if you can't control the things that are impossible to control, like their emotions, their satisfaction, or their constant shifting expectations, then you're failed as a man. The original box is already impossible. Your abuser makes it more impossible. And the walls keep moving. Every time you get close to meeting the standard your abuser sets, the standard changes. You're left chasing a version of masculinity that doesn't exist, one designed specifically to keep you failing, striving, and under your abuser's control. And those walls get tighter. Think of that scene in Star Wars with the trash compactor, the walls closing in. The longer you're in this relationship, the smaller the box becomes. Early on, maybe you were allowed to express frustration. Now that's seen as anger issues. Earlier on, maybe you could ask for help with something. Now that's being too needy. The space you're permitted to exist in shrinks, and the rules multiply. The box that was already suffocating becomes a space you can barely breathe in, and your abuser gains compliance, silence, and service as a result. When your identity is under attack, you become focused on defending it. You're not thinking about whether the relationship is healthy. You're not noticing the patterns of control. You're too busy trying to prove you're not what they say you are. Too busy earning back dignity that should never have been taken. Too busy performing a version of masculinity that keeps shifting every time you get close to it. And while you're scrambling to prove yourself, your abuser maintains their control over you. Your needs go unmet because expressing them makes you needy. Your boundaries go unenforced because holding them makes you controlling. Your pain goes unspoken because showing it makes you weak. The mockery trains you to self suppress. Eventually, your abuser does not even need to say it anymore because you do it to yourself. There's something that happens to men who experience this kind of abuse. Researchers call it diminished masculinity. You feel your sense of manhood shrinking. The shame, the sadness, the hurt, it has nowhere to go. In the outside world, men are often allowed one emotion: that's anger. But in an abusive relationship, even that is closed off. So instead, you get flashes of it, moments where the injustice, the pain, and the relentless ridicule become too much and something breaks through. A raised voice, a sharp word, a moment where you push back, and instantly you're given your abuser exactly what they need. See, there's the real you, the angry man. This is what I have to deal with. You're the one with the anger problems. Your pain gets repackaged as proof of your male toxicity. One flash of frustration erases months of patience. One raised voice confirms you're the dangerous one. You know this, you've learned it. So you swallow the anger too. You suppress everything, the sadness, the shame, even things like joy and play. You end up in the box with no exits. And here's where the trap closes completely around you because you can't get help. Seeking help would mean admitting you're struggling. Admitting you're struggling means you've failed as a man in the eyes of your abuser. You've internalized the messages from your abuser so deeply that even reaching for support feels like confirmation of your weakness. So you stay silent, you stay isolated, you stay inside the box. Because stepping outside it, even to save yourself, feels more dangerous than staying trapped. That's the function of masculinity mockery. It uses your own conditioning against you. It takes the rules that you were taught as a child and weaponizes them to keep you compliant, silent, and small. And until you see it for what it is, it works. Masculinity mockery shows up in many ways. Across this three-part series on masculinity mockery within the blueprint of family violence against men, we will cover 10 distinct tactics. In part two, we'll look at how your needs get attacked, such as your right to feel, to recover, or to seek help. In part three, we'll cover how your roles get attacked, such as your value as a provider, your reputation, and even your identity as a father. This video focuses on your identity as a man. Three tactics that attack who you are at the core. Each one works differently. The first one makes your abuser unchallengeable. She elevates herself above you, above critique, above accountability, using cultural narratives of female superiority. You can't push back because she's positioned herself as inherently above you. The second makes you unhearable. Your perspectives get diminished because you're male. You'll hear things like typical man, or you wouldn't understand because you're a male. Your voice gets erased before you've even spoken. And then the third one keeps you never enough. You're measured against an impossible standard of masculinity and found lacking. The goalposts keep shifting. You're always proving, never arriving. Three different mechanisms, one outcome. You stay illegitimate, dismissed, and under control. Let's start with the first tactic, which is misandry disguised as truth. Misandry disguised as truth positions your abuser as inherently superior to you. She's not just better than you, she's better than you because she's a woman. And that superiority gets used to place her above critique, above accountability, and above question. You'll hear things like, it's a girl boss thing you wouldn't understand, or men have had their turn, it's our time now. Or even, I've never met a man who wasn't a narcissist. The tactic works like this. Your abuser wraps herself in cultural narratives of female empowerment and uses them as armor. She's not being cruel, she's being a strong woman. She's not being controlling, she's leading. She's not being contemptuous, she's just stating facts about how women are superior. This is misandry dressed up as progress. And it becomes very hard to challenge. These narratives are everywhere right now. Girl power, the future is female, women supporting women. Much of this is positive overcorrection after centuries of imbalance. Some of it is even playful. Some of it is genuine empowerment. And if you are a man trying to do right, a man who supports equality, who wants women to thrive, who has examined his own behavior, telling the difference between healthy feminism and weaponized misandry feels like navigating a minefield. You don't want to be that guy, the one who pushes back against women empowerment, the one who makes it about himself, the one who can't handle a strong woman. So you stay silent, even when something feels wrong. Your abuser exploits that silence. She knows you won't challenge her. She knows the cultural scaffolding protects her. She knows that if you push back, she can reframe it as you being threatened, fragile, or sexist. So she says whatever she wants, does whatever she wants, and her gender becomes a shield against accountability. And that's exactly how it functions as control. Your abuser has now become unchallengeable. Any critique you raise gets deflected. You just can't handle a strong woman. This is why men are the problem. Your fragile ego can't cope. The content of your concern disappears. Only your gender remains, and your gender disqualifies you from speaking. Your abuser gains immunity. She can be cruel and call it strength. She can be controlling and call it leadership. She can mock, belittle, and demean you. And if you object, that's just proof you can't handle a powerful woman. Her behavior never gets examined because she's positioned herself above examination. So you start to accept treatment you would never accept if you believed you had standing to question it. And you don't. She's made sure of that. Type 2 is masculine identity attacks. Masculine identity attacks erase your voice. Your perspectives get dismissed, not because of what you said, but because you're male. You're reduced to a stereotype before you have even spoken. You'll hear things like typical man, or you wouldn't understand, you're just a guy, or ugh, men, you're all the same. The tactic works like this: your abuser applies male stereotypes directly to you, such as the clueless husband, the emotionally stunted man, the simple creature who can't grasp complexity. These cultural caricatures get layered onto you personally. You're not an individual with a perspective worth hearing, you're a man. And that tells your abuser everything they need to know about the value of your thoughts. The cultural backdrop makes this easy. Every sitcom with the bumbling dad, every joke about men not finding things in the fridge, every trope about male emotional unavailability. The idea that men are simple, oblivious, and incapable of depth is normalized. Your abuser draws on this and applies it to you. You become the stereotype. Your actual thoughts, insights, and contributions disappear behind it. When your perspective is preemptively invalidated, you lose your voice in the relationship. You can't contribute to decisions because you're a man. You don't get it. You can't raise concerns about the relationship because you're a man. You lack emotional intelligence. You can't offer your view on parenting, finances, or household matters because you're a man. Your input doesn't count. Your maleness becomes a filter that discards everything you say before it's even considered. Your abuser gains narrative control. They become the only valid perspective in the relationship, the authority on what's true, what matters, what's happening. You're not a partner with equal standing. You're a man, which means you're already wrong. The dismissal lands hard because of what men are taught about competence. Your value comes from being capable, from solving problems, from having something useful to contribute. When your abuser tells you your perspective doesn't count, that your gender makes you incapable of real understanding, it doesn't just dismiss what you said, it attacks your sense of who you are. You start to second guess yourself. Maybe you don't understand. Maybe you are missing something. Maybe your thoughts aren't as valuable as you assumed. You filter yourself before you speak. You hold back insights because what's the point? Eventually, you stop offering anything at all. And when you do try to push back, the trap tightens. Object to being called a typical man, and you're being defensive. Say, that's not fair, and you're proving you can't handle criticism. Show frustration, and you're displaying the exact emotional immaturity she's describing. Any response confirms the stereotype. So you learn to absorb it, to shrink, and to let your voice disappear. That's the outcome your abuser wants. A partner who has stopped trusting their own mind, who has stopped contributing, who has accepted that their perspective does not matter just because they're a man. Type 3 is not man enough. Not man enough traps you into endless proving your worth. Your abuser measures you against an impossible standard of masculinity, and you always fall short. We hear things like grow a pair, or real men don't need reassurance, or even I need a partner, not another child. Or my favorite, you are so soft, do you even know how to be a man? The tactic works like this: your abuser sets themselves up as the judge of what a real man is. They hold up an ideal, such as strong, decisive, unshakable, and measure you against it. And you fail. So you adapt. But the standard then shifts. You might have been too soft, so you toughen up. Now you're treated as though you're cold. You might have been too passive, so you took charge. And now you're seen as too controlling. The goalposts move every time you get close. The cultural conditioning makes this particular one land hard. Men are taught that masculinity must be earned and can even be revoked at any moment. So when your abuser tells you you're not man enough, it doesn't land as their opinion. It lands as confirmation of something you may have actually feared about yourself. This is how it works as control. The energy you spend trying to prove yourself is energy you don't have for anything else, like noticing the pattern, questioning the relationship, or leaving. Your abuser gains a partner locked in permanent inadequacy, always striving to meet their ideals and never arriving. The impact is pure exhaustion and shame. You lose sight of who you actually are because you've spent so long trying to be what they demand of you. You stop believing that you deserve rest, dignity, or even love until you finally become enough. And the standard is so designed so you never do. These three tactics, misandry disguised as truth, masculine identity attacks, and not man enough, all target the same thing, which is your legitimacy as a man. They attack who you are at the core, using shame and cultural conditioning to keep you silent, striving, and small. So, how do you protect yourself when you're still within this abusive dynamic? Well, there's no script that will ever stop your abuser. There's no perfect response that will make them see what they're doing. These tools that I'll step through will not fix a relationship. They're actually about protecting something within you while you're still in it. The first tool is your gender does not make you inferior. This sounds obvious. It isn't. When you've spent years absorbing messages that men are trash, that your perspective doesn't count, that you're failing at masculinity, the belief sinks in. You start to accept treatment you would never accept if you believed you deserved better. So let me say this clearly: no gender is superior to another. Not men over women, not women over men. The cultural narratives your abuser weaponizes are not truth. They're tools for control. Female superiority is not a fact you have to accept. Male inferiority is not your reality. You are not less than just because of your gender. And here's where I need to offer a warning: there's a trap waiting for men who have been through this. When you've had your masculinity attacked, when you've been told men are the problem, when your gender has been used to dismiss and degrade you, there's a pull towards overcorrection. You find commentators and content that taps into your anger, voices that validate your pain by attacking women, communities that feel like they're on your side because they hate the thing that hurt you. It feels like reclaiming power. It feels like fighting back. It's not, it's a trap. That path does not lead to healing. It leads to becoming the thing that hurt you. You move from being someone who is treated badly because of their gender to someone who treats others badly because of their gender. The pain doesn't go away, it just gets redirected, and you lose yourself in the process. Equality means equality, not revenge, not overcorrection, not swapping one form of contempt for another. Your healing doesn't come from hating women, it comes from reclaiming your worth without needing to diminish anyone else's. Next, you thing you need to remember is Your value is not defined by your abuser. Your abuser has become the voice in your head that tells you you are not enough. They've set themselves up as the authority of your worth. And because they keep shifting the standard, you keep failing. That authority that they have given themselves is false. Your abuser does not get to define what makes you valuable. They do not get to decide what a real man is. They do not get to measure you against an impossible ideal and declare you lacking. Their opinion of you is not the truth of you. You get to define your worth, and you are allowed to reject their measurement entirely. The last protection measure is they target these triggers because they work. Your abuser did not stumble upon your vulnerabilities by accident. They learned them. They studied what shuts you down, what makes you scramble, what keeps you performing. And they use that knowledge deliberately. The shame they activate was instilled in childhood. The fear of not being man enough was placed there before you had any say. Your abuser did not create these wounds, but they do exploit them. They press the buttons that were wired into you by a culture that taught you masculinity must be earned and can be revoked at any moment. Seeing that clearly matters. When you recognize that the mockery is strategic, that it's designed to trigger old shame and keep you compliant, it loses some of its power. You start to see the manipulation for what it is. You stop believing the shame is telling you the truth about yourself and start seeing it as a tool being used against you. This won't make the attacks stop. It won't make them hurt less in the moment, but it does create distance, a small gap between the trigger and your response. And in that gap, you can choose differently. You can remind yourself that this is control. This is not truth. I am not what they say I am. You are not what they say you are. Your gender does not make you inferior. Your maleness doesn't disqualify your perspective. Your failure to meet an impossible shifting standard of masculinity doesn't make you less worthy of dignity, respect, or love. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to have needs. You're allowed to define for yourself what kind of man you want to be without your abuser's voice in your head telling you you're getting it wrong. That voice can be unlearned. It takes time, it takes support, it takes moments like this one, where someone names what's being done to you and you recognize it. You're not alone in this. Please like, subscribe, and type the word stand again in the comments. And if you're able to support the work, the donation link is also in the description. Every contribution keeps this going. Thank you all for being here. This is Stand Again, lived experience platform for male survivors of family violence. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Your voice might just help another man find his. If you're looking for one on one support, you can book coaching with a member of the Stand Again team. Simply visit standagain.com.au, where you will also find grounded information on surviving and recovering from family violence as a man. As always, remember that no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you can stand again.